Hey, folks, welcome to the Leeds View podcast, our second podcast of the week. We do these twice a week on a Tuesday and on a Thursday, as well as daily Leeds United news on audio and on YouTube. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify or anywhere you get your podcast. And we are part of the Sports Social Podcasting Network. We also have a partnership with OK Jersey. You can get yourself some nice World Cup shirts for a World Cup summer by using the View code down below, TView, for 8% off on that. And if you want to get yourself some official Leeds United merch, you can use the Fanatics links down below for any of the massively now discounted Leeds United merch that is on the official site. Check all that out. If you want to, contractual obligations out of the way now, and we're into the match view or preview with Andrea Russo to have a little bit of a chat about what Daniel Farke said today and what is an interesting game for Leeds United this weekend against Manchester City. The game that did or didn't turn our season around, depending on what way you want to look at it. We'll talk about that. And maybe the next three games, but also looking at what our rivals are doing this weekend to see, are we heading towards crunch time, as Daniel Farke worded it today? But I'm delighted to be joined by Andrea Russo. So first things first, I'll check in. And Andrea, how are you doing, mate? How's things?
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here, first and foremost. So thanks for having me. I'm well. All things considered, apart from the I'm not sure it's now act of my Twitter account, but I keep positive that we'll get it back. I have to thank you for your assistance and your support. I want to do that, obviously, because you've helped me. Also, be trying to keep me positive, with that. But I won't rest until it's back. Honestly, until it's back, because honestly, I put a lot of work into that to share my opinions over the years, and it was a good instrument, to exchange football opinions with a lot of people in the Leeds sphere. So apart from that, don't keep telling to people, don't interact with the account. I will eventually say when it's back. So
don't unfollow the account, because the account will hopefully be going back to Andrea. But at the moment, it has been hacked by somebody who's pumping crypto stuff out there. So if you see Andrea all of a sudden getting very, very interested in cryptocurrency, or if you see me over the next couple of weeks getting involved in cryptocurrency, you can rest assured that the account has probably been hacked, and we're working on getting it back. So fingers crossed Andrea will have his account back soon, as long as X can speed things up a little bit and try and help him to get it back. But it's not an ideal situation. But I'm delighted that you're here, Andrea, to talk about Leeds United. Just to let everyone know, by the way, the Big Up predictions for the watch along tomorrow over on bigup.com is up here in the corner. If you want to scan that QR code, you can, and it'll bring you over if you want to get involved in our weekly predictions game over on bigup.com. I'll leave it there, and there's also a link down below for those who don't have QR scanners or are watching this on their phone and can't take a photograph of their phone because the camera's in their phone. So, Man City at home this time, Andrea. Lots to talk about. There's moving factors to this of what on paper feels like Leeds' first loss in a while since Arsenal coming. And I'm saying on paper. The reality could be very, very different. A very interesting press conference from Daniel Farke today, quite upbeat and quite positive about what we could potentially do, all things considered. But this is a tricky game for Leeds United. The ones coming after it are where I think the points are going to be sitting for Leeds if they are to get safe this season. But this one could be an interesting game, because this was the game. Daniel Farke won't say this, and he's right not to say it, but this was the game away from home that saw Leeds' season turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I'm inclined to be more like Farke, to be fair, honestly. I don't know why, but I'm feeling positive about this game, because we showed, of course, we didn't play well in that first half at Eastlands during the first half of the season, but the second half showed that we could go toe to toe with them with the proper setup, and we caught them by surprise back then. Of course, Guardiola, knowing the type of manager he is, he will have watched that game probably 100 times to see what prompted Leeds to get back into it from a 2-0 disadvantage to equalize, and eventually City had to find a great shot from outside the box. Great shot, but Perry could have done better probably there in that. I remember that he went down his arm. He went down his arm. I remember.
The player jumped over the top of the football and went underneath him, and then Perry had to try and react to it. And you're like, oh god.
Yeah, that shot. But Honestly, I think that we have the tools to create problems for them because, of course, if you look at the record, it's a great record. All
Mm.
the competitions, the last eight, they made one draw and 7 wins. So they're trying to match up and close the gap to Arsenal. I feel honestly that Arsenal this time are gonna win it eventually. Usually around this period of the year they tend to
Yeah,
drop it, but I think it's their year this season. I think it's finally arrived, But Man City, we know that the strength they have is in their system. It's in the way they are like versatile because they can change a lot during compared to the opponent. They have in front of them, but also in game they can rotate a lot. The reading of the positioning it's really difficult to read for the opposition, but I don't know why, but I think we have the tools, especially if we play with a 3-4-2-1, to cause them problems. Especially because I've seen a tweet before my my account was active in recent days that basically a Man City fan had posted a picture of the Forest game with Gibbs White next to Ampadu in the tunnel, and he was looking at Ampadu, and he basically said in the tweet, "We have to go to these now with a lot of respect, basically." And yeah, I think it was Lewis that replied and quoted and said, "Now we have turned into the new rainy night in Stoke."
mm,
And that's true because in the end, Elland Road is it's been a fortress so far. It's been our extra man. It's been um, our fortress again. I want to really underline that it's been a fortress. So at home, I think we can play and beat anyone. We showed that against Chelsea, Liverpool. The only team that causes us problems is Arsenal. And I think, Jared, there's a lot we can learn from that Arsenal game that we don't need to repeat in this game because the teams are similar eventually. And I don't want to see a setup similar to the one that we saw against Mikel Arteta Arsenal, to be
yeah,
fair, because otherwise I think the game will end in a similar scoreline for us.
yeah. I think there needs to be. I think we need to bottle what we did against Liverpool in Elland Road. Same against Chelsea. Same against Everton, Newcastle start of season as well. And again, similar to what we did in the second half away to Manchester City. I think we need to be aggressive and I think we need to be on the front foot. I think if Leeds are going to sit back, and we've seen it, I'm not criticizing the team against Aston Villa because I think Aston Villa pushed us back. But if we allow ourselves to get pushed back, we will concede. It will
Yeah.
guarantee that happen. We're not going to be able to defend against the Manchester City for 45 minutes, let alone 90 minutes. So I'm a big proponent and go down swinging. If you're going to go down, at least try and lay a glove on the person before you go down. And you can see on the screen there for those listening on the audio, Leeds matches, last 25 league games, including playoff matches after 5 p.m., 20 wins, 5 draws, no defeats. So this is the one. Does the run stop on Saturday evening at 5:30, or do Leeds clock up one more on that? And of all the games that Leeds are looking at moving into in the next couple of weeks, where the points will be there against sides that are in and around us in the table, this is one Leeds probably haven't budgeted for getting anything from. So if you can get a point in this game, or if you could nick 3 points, why not? If you could, this will go an awful long way towards Leeds achieving their goals. And Daniel Farkas spoke about that today, Andre. He said, we need an extraordinary night, an extraordinary performance in a special atmosphere. He talked about the groundsman needs to be on it. The ticket people need to be on it. The burger man in the van outside needs to be on it. And he has no doubt that the fans will be on it. And there was one line that he used today that I loved. And it was about the relationship between this squad and the fans. And he said that if you look at this, you've got a group of hungry players who haven't won all the trophies and awards of the top world class players, but they want to get there. So they're on the hill up the climb. And you've got a passionate fan base who see that and they want to
Yeah.
reward that as well. So you get this really nice mix of this aggressive young squad who are pushing and pushing and pushing in every game and showing really strong character, and a fan base that appreciate that and are rallying in behind them as well. And Ellen Road, I was at the Nottingham Forest game. I'll be at the Sunderland game on Tuesday night. And the atmosphere at Nottingham Forest the place was rocking. It just kept going around in a circle, just didn't stop. And they need that. And Farkas leaned into that if like Chelsea, if they approach this game and they slightly underestimate us, then we've got a chance. But we have to be at our absolute best. We need a little bit of luck that their shots hit posts and don't go in. And we need to be really effective in both of our boxes if we're going to get anything from this. But he did point out we have gone up against sides this season in the top half, and we have done exactly that and get points, especially in Elland Road where we beat Chelsea, drawn with Liverpool. So the Arsenal one is the outlier. And obviously, Man City are now just 2 points short of Arsenal at the top of the league. They've got a chance to try and close that gap. Arsenal having their February wobble.
Yeah.
But there's a lot in this for Leeds as well. There's probably more pressure on Manchester City this weekend than there is actually Leeds, because we probably don't necessarily need to get anything from this game. We've got more important games coming up. But they do. They need to get 3 points in this game because they need to close that gap on Arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it has more weight for them. Absolutely more pressure for them. I like what Farkas has said about how we need to approach the game, to be fair, because that's proper Leeds United. That's our history. If everyone is Leeds United minded, then we should get somewhere. That's what Revi used to say. So we know that the Leeds fan, when they see the fight, they don't care a lot about the talent, regardless of the talent. They want to see the fight. You might be Messi, you might be the worst player on the pitch, but when you put that white shirt on, you need to show that you are a part of a group. The Leeds fans love when a group is united, when everyone is understands what the fans expect. The aggression, the togetherness, the collective, being able also to play dirty at times. Dirty, not being unsportsmanlike. I don't mean that, but I mean to get your shirt, your elbows dirty. To really put yourselves on the line for your teammates. So I really like that part of the speech, because we can approach this match with the capability of probably considering it that even a draw would be a good result and a confidence boost. Because in the end, we could have got 3 points. We were set for the 3 points. Unfortunately, at Villa Park, they didn't materialize, because in the end, what happened with the illness of Gabi Gudmundsson forced us to change. And I think after the change, we were too deep. We defended well, but we were too deep. We didn't have the runners to counterattack. And that's the thing that has been a pattern so far this season, I think. So that's the thing. I think that's what doesn't need to happen, and a lesson that we had to learn from the Arsenal game, because in the end, Aronson and Calvert-Lewin were in no man's land, eventually. So honestly, I think that we need to play with 2 players behind DCL, because we need to put some pressure on the back line when Diaz, Mark Gay, Mateus Nunes. I think Mateus Nunes is the weak link in this City team. He's not a natural right back. Then, of course, that back line, they usually start the build up from there with Rodri dropping. You need to put the pressure on the back line, like we did against Forest. When different opponent, of course. But I really like the aggression off the ball of Noah Okafor, who of course is unavailable this time around, and Aronson behind the striker, behind the number 9, because it helped us to be in that position. Of course, we cannot do that consistently for 90 minutes against City, because you if they bypass you the first line of pressing, there are gaps. But I don't want to see us approaching this match in a similar way that we did against Arsenal, because that's like entering the pitch of the Elland Road with a white flag for me. So of course the results need to happen against Sunderland, against Palace, in the next fixtures, Brentford. But there was also another stat that I think has gone under the line, Jer, apart from the one of the 5 p.m. After 5 p.m. kickoff at Elland Road. I was looking at the results today, and we beat Palace at Elland Road, we beat West Ham, we beat Forest. Of course, the only one around us, we beat Fulham too. The only one around us we've lost against is Tottenham, of course. So in these direct clashes, we have always beaten our direct rivals, and these are the points that matter the most. Against the direct rival. And at home, we've been almost perfect, apart from Tottenham. So of course, we will have Burnley. There will be other key clashes, Wolverhampton, but of course, the next one, Sunderland, Brentford, Crystal Palace, especially, the team above us. Of course, the direct rival like Palace matter more, in this case. but at home we can play and go toe-to-toe with anyone if we approach it the Leeds way. The 3-4-2-1 or even the 3-5-2, but because we also seen, at times the center mid advancing. But if we approach it the FM Arsenal way, I'm very scared. Honestly, I think it will end in a similar way. So that's what we need not to repeat for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There has to be a will to get something from this game, and I don't. Both games against Arsenal this season, I felt, even listening to the press conference going into the game, I felt like we were going in having lost already. I didn't get that vibe here. There was a lot of talk in the press conference about the fact that Pep Guardiola and Daniel Farke are very close friends. And anyone who has a close friend in sport, you want to beat them. You don't want to just roll over and get your belly tickled. You want to make sure that you beat them. So there's a little bit of bragging rights there as well. And interesting to see Farke said that he didn't want to talk about it. The fact that Pep brought this up, he said he didn't want to be the one to say anything about it, but they're close friends. What's interesting, though, Andrea, and this is to give people a bit of hope, because it's the hope that kills you. So here's the hope, and you can grab onto this if you want it or not. We talk about Leeds' home record being really good. Man City's away record actually not that good. All of their losses, bar one game this season, have come away from home. They've had 5 losses this season. 4 of them were on the road. They lost to Manchester United in January. They lost to Newcastle in November. They lost to Aston Villa in October, and they lost to Brighton in August. And yeah, and then they lost to Spurs at home. Spurs, the only game they lost it in the Etihad. So there's something there for Leeds. They're on the road. Again, the pressure that's there as well. The concession to go. Alan Pope had a great question for Daniel Farke. I did genuinely enjoy Daniel Farke's reactions to things today, because there was the Sky Sports journalist who said, is playing Man City. You described it once as climbing Mount Everest. Is it still Mount Everest? And he said, yeah. And then the guy said to him, well, people have climbed Mount Everest, so it's doable. He goes, yeah, but people have also died on Mount Everest. So there's that. And I like
German.
This.
That's German humor. Yeah.
There was a bit of pep in his step today, which I quite enjoyed seeing. But he was also asked by Adam Pope about. Adam Pope said to him that they've only scored once in the second half in the last 9 games. Man City, is that a weakness in their game that you could exploit? And Farke went, "Oh, great! We've got all this data. We can finally poke holes and say they've got weaknesses, despite their wins. We can say they've got weaknesses. I'll pass it on to our stats team." But he will look to try and nullify what they do, and he did it. What was missed in the first game? Yes, they scored 3 goals, and there is a way we have to stop them, and it's a tough side to stop, because Haaland was the talking point before the last game, and Daniel Farke talked about we need to stop the supply going into him, which they did really, really well. He wasn't getting on the end of anything because nothing was coming to him. It came up again today, and Farke said the same thing. We've got to stop the supply going into him. That's simple. And then he caveated it by saying, but then you've got to worry about Marmoush. And then you've got to worry about Semenyo. So if he doesn't score, they've got other players who will. So we've got to make sure we just stop them as a totality of getting balls in areas where they can do us damage. But to do that, they're going to have to get in their faces. They're going to have to be close. The team lineup is going to be interesting. You mentioned the 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-3 as Farke calls it. The 3-5-2 is my preference because it worked so well against them. And it also means they can't commit as many bodies forward because we've got 2 strikers. So they've got to leave an extra man. They won't go man for man. They'll leave an extra body there as well. And we've been very good at home when we did that. Now, it's not often that we've played the 2, but when they've been on the pitch together, Mecha and DCL, they're both fit and available. He doesn't have no Okafor. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Does he go with the 3-4-2-1 like he did against Villa, Anton Stack playing that position? And if he does, he's likely to soak up slightly more pressure than we did against Villa, which was still a lot of pressure. Or does he go with 3-5-2 and try and be more aggressive and put the ball in on top of Manchester City and try and exploit the fact that, as you said, their fullbacks, one of their fullbacks isn't a natural fullback, and they will leave gaps back there?
I would like the 3-4-2-1 for one specific reason, and because I really like that against Forest. When of course he doesn't have no Okafor, so the natural change would be really Nyont on that side. We've seen him on the left and Aronson on the right. Because I don't consider Buonanotte now because he wasn't even on the bench at Villa. There's also Dan James, but maybe he can be I would have liked actually Dan James in the second half at Villa. I think we were screaming for a
Yeah,
Yeah,
the same
we were
thing.
screaming for a player there. We were screaming for a player there because
An
he made
outball.
that. Yeah, because that's what happened. We were, and it happened a lot. Like I said, it's a pattern when we have DCL and Aronson isolated up front with all the other players back, and you just go for the long ball, and we don't have realistically any runner, capable of recovering the ball and leading the counter. So you have to go for the long ball. If you have two players, like for example Aronson in that case and Dan James at Villa, I think there were spaces when we recovered the ball to send the ball and make Dan James sprint, down the wing to try to counter. It's what actually, because I was looking at that. The 3-5-2 that we played at Newcastle was effective in that sense,
Yeah.
because we were balanced. And I think if we play 3-5-2, I would like to see a similar approach to the one that we had at St James's Park, because I think it was the best, probably against a top six side, at least a team playing in Europe. It was the one of the best game where the 3-5-2 work. Eventually, we were beaten by 5 margins, like margins, defensive mistakes, allowed by the keeper too,
Handball.
and the handball too. Yeah, yeah, madness how VR works at times, almost every time. But I think if we approach it in that sense with Aronson in his free role, more central like it was at Newcastle, than he was going central pass and then sprinting to one side, because of course Newcastle are not Man City. Newcastle are more, okay, let's go on the offense, let's go
Yeah.
on the offense, and they leave gaps. Of course Man City with Rodri, they will be more balanced. I just said 3-4-2-1 because of if we go deep, we have 2 outlets on both sides. That, of course, Aronson free roll and maybe Gnonto on one side, sprinting, pressing, a fast player. I also see the case for Match and DCL together. Yes, we talked about this with Loki today. But the thing is, okay, you will engage with 2 physical players, Ruben Dias and Mark Gay, with Mecha and DCL, but I don't see a player with a lot of pace up there, apart from Brendan Aronson. But then you are playing with a 3-5,
1-2.
3-4-1-2. Yeah,
3-4-1-2.
more
Yeah.
often. And it would be a
A lot.
new formation, almost new. Yeah. So my preference would be 3-4-2-1, but I see the case. The only time I see the case for Match and DCL is we want to bring 2 physical players to battle and engage with Ruben Dias and Margay and try to disrupt their build-up by getting them constantly engaged with the marking of DCL and then Matcha. My preference, however, would be the 3-4-2-1 with 2 proper wingers, or at least
Yeah.
attacking midfielder and winger outlet, wide outlet and central free roll outlet, and a 9. That would be my preference.
So then on that, let's have the same conversation we all have about Leeds central midfield right now. Who do you pick? Because if you're going to go with the 2 behind, it's been more effective in terms of winning games when we've had 2 winger type players. So Brendan Aronson and Noah Okafor.
Yeah.
There's no Noah Okafor. We saw Stack kind of playing that role, but kind of not playing that role against Aston Villa, which left Brendan Aronson kind of with a lot of work to do in DCL, a little bit isolated at times. Do you start a Willie Gnonto then in that position, or Dan James? And if so, who comes out of that team? Do you drop Ilya Gruev, ask Ampadu to be the out and out 6, and then bring Anton Stack in, who can obviously be a defensive midfielder as well?
Yeah, that's what I will do, but because it will be very, very harsh with Gruev, because he's one of the most
he's very
improved
good.
players we have. He's
Yeah.
been very good. He's adapted from a number 6 to a link-up player. Very effective, especially down the left-hand side. I think, okay, Gudmundsson didn't have a great game at Villa, but at least his positioning was conservative, on point. He was misplacing a lot of passes, but at least his link-up with Gruev helped us to move the ball quickly, and Gruev did a lot of switches and helped to speed up the build-up. And I like that because eventually he adapted, So it would be very harsh on Gruev. I get that.
Yeah.
Eventually, that's my opinion. I don't think Farke would move in that way, but I will keep Gruev out and play with the Stack and Ampadu, with Aronson and Gnonto to, like I said, a free roll and a wide outlet behind DCL. That's my opinion. I think Farke will do something similar to Newcastle. Gruev, Ampadu, and Stack, Aronson, and and DCL, with Stack playing in that more advanced role, more balanced, like the link up between the other two midfielders, the two conservative ones, and Brendan Aronson and Stack. He was effective in games. In other games, like in the first half, he was very effective. In the second half, he struggled. He struggled because when we get too deep, he tries to keep us a little bit forward, but then he's disjointed from the rest of the midfield and the wing backs. So it's like in no man's land, and on his own, he struggles. It's a new role too that he has embarked on for the first time this season, when he arrived at Leeds, compared to Offenheim.
Yeah. I mean, his numbers, his output for Stack this year, he's having the best goal scoring season of his career and assists this season. He's already outscored and out assisted all of his previous seasons at every other club, which says an awful lot because he's in the Premier League and he's doing better than he was doing in the Bundesliga. So it does tell you he's playing much further forward. He played as an out-and-out 6 for Hoffenheim, so he's far more advanced. The other question, Andrea, then comes down to the back line. My favorite version of Daniel Farke is the one where I don't know what team he's going to pick. I have no idea. Over the last couple of weeks, I've started to guess the team again. And I don't like that because if we're guessing the team, then the opposition are guessing the team. And that's never a good idea. I had, going into the Villa game, I was chatting to my brother outside Villa Park and I said, I want us to play this team. I think he'll play this team, but I don't want that team. I want my team. And he played the one I thought he'd play. And I went, okay, there's a predictability factor starting to eke here a little bit, but it could have just been for that game. We still got a point. So doesn't matter what I think, he got a result. I think he doesn't change the team for Villa. I think he will try and start with the exact same team he started with, which means James Justin will be the right centre back of the three. I think our back line is far better when Yaka Bial is in there, which again is harsh on James Justin because he's been very, very good and he gives us kind of that double right back kind of situation when himself and Bogle decide to both go forward together, and you get a lot from that, and I get the merits of it. But even from an attacking set piece perspective, we haven't looked this strong on the long throws since Bial's been out of the side and Stack. So they're both back. I would ideally like to see him go back. And again, it's harsh on James Justin, but that's the whole point of a squad, isn't it? That you've got that depth and these players can come on and freshen things up so we don't concede late goals. So you can take Bogle off and bring on James Justin or whatever way you want to do it. What do you think he does with that back line? Do you think he stays as is with James Justin on the right-hand side? Or do you think he brings in someone like Yaka Bial in the centre to sweep, to stop those runs of Erling Haaland, considering that was the change he made against Man City in the second half, was bringing Bial on?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. Honestly, I think he will. If we started to, if we want to guess Farke's mind now, I think we've got to know that. We got to know that now. Yeah, so I think he will present again Justin, Rodon, and Strauch. But that worries me honestly because it works offensively because we've seen that Gudmundsson was more conservative on the left and Bogle and Justin were able to get more forward.
Yeah,
in that sense, because in the end, they were getting more forward in the build-up on the right hand side, especially with the switches. We had we were overnumbering them, but it will leave you a lot of exposed. And of course, if we're planning to do the 3-5-2 again, so not changing the team, probably it can work, because you don't have all these offensive players up front. You just have two offensive players up there, so it can work to have the wing backs getting more forward and also Justin more involved in the build-up. I agree with you, though. I would like to see Yaka Bial, especially because he did a very good job on Benjamin Sesko.
Yeah.
And he knows this type of strikers is the most physical player we have. Holland is a physical one.
Thiago, Ekitike.
Jesus, all these players. So I think he proved his case. Like, I am reliable against big teams in a back three, back five in out of possession, of course, in this case. So I would agree with you, Jared. I would like to see Yaka Bial, Rodon, and Strauch. And of course, you have it's a strong debate on would you play them between James Justin and Bogle, because both of them have been good, and it's good for the team, to have and also for both players, because when you're told James, Jaden, James, you are playing, you are starting. If I were Jaden, I would be fuming. Okay, when I come on the pitch, eventually I will try
Yeah.
to prove you wrong because you didn't start me. It's good competition. It's good to have, and that's what I would have liked to see on the left too, with the addition of
One more.
another left wing back. Yeah, I
Yeah.
won't rest my case on that. Despite the result, my opinion doesn't change. On the
Yeah.
need for more squad depth for this side.
We'll get there in a couple of weeks' time. I've been keeping track of all the players that have been linked with Leeds since the transfer window closed, and who said that we're being linked with them as well, so we can judge them come the start of the window. There's been 3 left backs linked with Leeds United already. Torral Malacia has been linked for Manchester
Yeah.
United. Kassim Brown has been linked as well, and then Soufiane El Karouani from FC Utrecht has been linked
Yeah,
with Leeds.
he's a good
He's an
player.
assist
Yeah.
machine. Yeah, assist machine at left back. So yeah, if I was to go through the list and tell you the positions I think Leeds are going to go for, not necessarily the players, it looks like centre half, attacking midfielder, and a left back are the 3 that are standing. Maybe a striker as well. But they're the 3 that are really,
Yeah, that's right.
all the names are in those 3 positions. So definitely 3 areas Leeds to look at. Andrea, before we wrap up tonight, there's a couple things to look at. This is the weekend ahead for us and our rivals around us. I haven't put Brighton in this because just on points total, they're probably a little bit out of it. But I don't necessarily think Brighton are out of this at all. But we're home to Manchester City. West Ham United have to travel to Anfield. Sorry, they're not. They're home to Liverpool. Liverpool travel to the London Stadium. Sorry. Brighton are away to Nottingham Forest. Crystal Palace are away to Manchester United. And Spurs are away to Fulham. Do you think we come out of this weekend better off, exactly as we are, or worse off looking at those fixtures this weekend?
I think exactly as we are, to be fair, at first sight, because I think that probably the easiest fixture are for Forest
Yeah.
and Palace, because I still think Man United have the sleep in them, at times, you don't turn into a I don't trust them, honestly, because they have the quality now. They have found a new rejuvenated energy with the new manager, with Carrick. But eventually, you don't turn into a new side overnight. Of course, they are having a good season now in terms of positioning in the league compared to where they were under Amorim, But the easiest one probably, and also because it's a direct clash, is for Forest, and it's not an easy one. So everyone is as difficult fixtures in the end. Probably the most open one, not easy. Easy wasn't the right term, Probably the more open, more unpredictable one is Brighton against Forest, because of the of what it can cause to the table. Looking at the table down there, Palace, I think, can go toe to toe with Man United at Old Trafford. I think Spurs, honestly, I don't see them winning at Fulham, honestly. Also, again, it's another clash between a team that's slightly above, of course, in the table, and a team
London
that
derby as
hasn't
well.
been. London derby,
Not an
West
exact
against
one,
North.
but yeah.
They
Also,
don't have
Andrea,
a great rivalry.
You obviously been an Italian journalist, you know an awful lot more about Igor Tudor than most of us do.
Yeah.
What do you make of that going into Spurs there? And do you think he's got the right temperament to actually fix what appears to be quite a fragile Spurs dressing room, or is he going to make it worse?
Honestly, I found the appointment really questionable, because you are appointing a manager that has never managed before a top club in a relegation fight right now, because that's the reality of Spurs right now. He was appointed at Juve and at Lazio after the sacking of a manager, because when he was appointed at Lazio, Sarri had been sacked. They decided to appoint him after his spell with Marseille. His season was already compromised back then. But then at Juve, when he was appointed, after the sack of Thiago Motta, he eventually managed at the last day of the season to get UCL football against Venezia. We were fighting for relegation. Eventually got relegated, that night. But by the tight margin, like in the final minutes of the season, at Juve, he he didn't implement a style of football. And even at Marcelo Lazio, went to heated roles with rifts with players like Gendouzi, for example. He's very, very traditional in a certain sense with his ways of management. He will always put his beliefs first. And even at Juve, the dressing room management, the management of certain players wasn't great. To be fair, he acted as the fall guy eventually because he always defended tried to defend the group, but eventually the group wasn't following him when he got sacked after the loss at Lazio. I don't think it's the right manager because, of course, he's one that will go to war against a player that isn't following him. Yeah, in that sense, he's always been even when he was playing, he was one of the tough guys. Back then, when Croatia had Bilic, Stimac, Stjepan Tomas, all these Robert Kovac, all these players back then, Dario Simic, all these players, all of them were really tough, So I don't think he's the right appointment because eventually you need someone that knows the Premier League. You need someone that knows the Premier League, that had already been in a relegation fight, because they are full of players that aren't used to this situation. They are playing in Europe. They won the Europa League, and now they are fighting for their lives in the Premier League, and they are losing at home in the North London derby 4-1 against Arsenal. That's not the best start, Yeah, and eventually Tudor, I think the best spell he had was at Verona. But even before at Udinese, at the Hajduk Split, his hometown club too. There's always something. There's always a time when he clashes with someone. So Spurs needed someone, even a dinosaur. One of the managers that they call dinosaur. But at least someone that knows what it takes to be a Premier League manager, not someone arriving for the first time in the Premier League. I don't think it was the good appointment, and I can see the longa manus, like the Latins will say, the long reach of Paratici, who has left has left Spurs, but seems to have probably, I guess, recommended his another one that used to be connected.
A consultancy basis, kind of recommending people to them.
Yeah, but both of them were at Juve, in the past, and he was at Juve actually Tudor when he was the assistant coach of assistant manager of Andrea Pirlo. There's also the All or Nothing series, when Cristiano Ronaldo was at Juve and Pirlo was the manager on Prime Video, and Tudor was the assistant back there, so they know each other from then. I think they were struggling to find a manager. They even had Tim Sherwood, proposing himself on television. I saw that a blast from the past. And eventually they decided to pick, I think, to consult their former director of football, and eventually they got Tudor,
That's mad.
The Zerbi too would have been a questionable appointment, because so far I don't think you need a top manager like someone for the top 6, top half. You need someone that will get you out of the relegation or the dogfight,
Someone can get you 9-10 points in the next 11 games, just galvanize the side, get them all together and push them on. But look, it'll benefit us. Andrea, these are the next 3 for each side after this weekend's games. And these are the kind of the 3 that I'm looking at from a Leeds perspective. Sunderland at home, Crystal Palace away, Brentford at home. Just 2 more games under the lights at Ellen Road. The Tuesday night game against Sunderland, then Brentford is the 8 o'clock game. So we've got 2 more games under the lights. That's the last of our games under the lights, I believe. Now, this is wishful thinking. I said that on Tuesday, so I'm not going to drive this home, but there is a world where Leeds can pick up 9 points there. Because their sides Leeds need to try and go and win against. We're done with the top sides now for a little bit before we've, positional wise, Manchester United away from home after these 3. But there is an opportunity there. If you can beat Sunderland at home, who've only won once away from home this season, if you can beat Crystal Palace, who, again, depending on how their mental state is after this weekend of games, whether they're back in the mix or not. And then you've Brentford at home, who Keith Andrews just got a new contract and should be given credit. I said they'd get relegated. He's done a cracking job and he got them in a good position this year. But they are 3, again, with 2 of them in at home. Leeds need to target. And then you're looking at 40 points if you were to do that. Outside of that, if you could get even 7 points from those 3, it's a very healthy haul. You still have Burnley at home. You still have Wolves at home to come. So there's still possibilities of getting the points that you need. And you look at West Ham, away to Fulham, home to Man City, away to Villa, Forest, away to Man City, home to Fulham. Then they have to play Spurs. So someone's taking points off each other there. And then Palace and Spurs have each other next week. Then they've got Palace have got us. Spurs are away to Liverpool. They're home to Forest. And then Palace have got Man City away. So it's not an easy run of fixtures for the sides that are down there with us. And looking at the next 11 games, the next 10 games after this weekend's games, these are the three for me that could really decide how this Premier League table finishes up at the bottom, because this could start to create gaps.
Yeah, this is the turning point of the season for me. The next two at home after Man City, I think they can be classified as crucial must-wins, probably near that category. You know, there's still room, of course, to wiggle in. You know, to see if we don't pick the 3 points against these sides. You know, but there's also Wolverhampton at home and Burnley at home. You know, these are the other games probably that will define our season. But if I look at the next three fixtures for our opponents too, you know, probably that's the biggest chance for us, because look at West Ham, look at Forest, all of them. Maybe Spurs too, of course. There's Palace at home. Yeah, that's another London derby. Forest at home, that's another game that they can pick points. You know, these two are unpredictable. A London derby at home, and we know Forest, they are really up and down. You know, like they lose against us. You know, Sean Dyche goes, and then they go to Istanbul and win 3-0 at Fenerbahce. You know, really unpredictable team. You know, they do better in Europe than they do at in the Premier League. You know, than they do in England. But yeah, Forest, very tough fixtures. Palace to West Ham. There's a case where West Ham can pick up 1 or 3 points in the next three.
Yeah.
Where also can happen the same to Forest, to be fair, and also to Palace. So we need to capitalize and pick up massive points in the next three, because eventually it will create the gap between us and probably either West Ham or Nottingham Forest. It's fundamental to get at least, I think, 6. At least 6 out of the next three. You know, at least 6 out of the next three. We need to pick up 2 wins. Of course, like I said, there's still room, because you have Wolverhampton, who, by the way, is a tough fixture, because eventually they don't have the pressure anymore. They know they are down. They are playing
same as Burnley.
With one. Same as Burnley. You know, they don't have the pressure anymore. There's players that want to showcase themselves to prove that they are Premier League players. Like, okay, my team is going down. Pick me up next year. I want to see. So at least 6 points, Jer. At least 6 points in the next three after Man City.
There are West Ham fans that I know who are already saying that Chris Somerville is playing for his next move, the way that he's been playing at the moment. So all of a sudden his form's coming out of nowhere. But yeah, look, it's an interesting one. Not the end of the world again if we don't win all those games, but there's still plenty of matches left. And again, every week it's one game less, one less block of available points. So I am counting what's available, what's left and what's available versus necessarily what we can actually win, and then what the gap is to the sides below us. But yeah, it's going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks. Andrea, massive thanks as always for joining me tonight for the review. And fingers crossed we get your X account back up and running soon if the hackers feck off and we can sort it out. What a crappy thing for someone to do, but fingers crossed. Folks, also, massive thanks for everyone who's watching and listening tonight as well. If you want to give us a channel rating on the audios, you can do so. Massive help to what we're trying to do here. And if you're watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. And if you want to like and hype the video as well, you can do that as well. All those good things. And don't forget OK Jersey for a discount off of some shirts over on their site at okjersey.com. Code TView for 8% off there. Right, that'll do it for tonight, folks. Massive thanks. I'll be back tomorrow morning with some Leeds news. We have to watch along over on bigup.com on Saturday evening for the game. And don't forget, the predictions is open if you want to go over there and enter our sweepstakes. So with that, Andrea, thanks very much for joining me, mate.
Thank you, Joe. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, mate. See you soon, folks. Bye.